covered with 5 pies worth of used blueberries. The women in the audience screamed. Boss man Bob Cormier took one look at Bill Travis and barfed on Principal Wiggins, who barfed on the lumberjack that was sitting next to him. Mayor Grundy barfed on his wife's tits, but when the smell hit the crowd, that's when Lard Ass's plan really started to work. Girlfriends barfed on boyfriends, kids barfed on their parents, a fat lady barfed in her purse. The Donnelly twins barfed on each other, and the women's auxiliary barfed all over the Benevolent Order of Antelopes, and Lard Ass just sat back and enjoyed what he created. A complete and total cheat codes-orama. Yeah!
All right.
It's August 25th, everybody.
There.
August 25th, everybody. 2016. Welcome to episode 109 of the Cheat Codes Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're always glad to have you with us. The next hour is us drinking a few beers and going over our favorite bits from the past week in video game tech and pop culture news. My name is Joe Erskine. I am your host, and we're coming to you from the most diabolical pie eating contest you've ever seen. It's a revenge story. You get it. It's cool. Today I'm here with Cheat Codes Keeper of the Free Stuff, Mr. Nick Vern Golish.
Hey, how's it going?
Cheat Codes Community Manager, Mr. Chris Gordy Morris.
Isn't that deceiving because you just did the part of Gordy?
Details, buddy, don't details. And we're excited to welcome game designer and popular YouTuber known as Criken 2, Mr. Keenan Ace Mosselman. We're going to call him Criken. It's all good.
Hi.
Hey, man.
Welcome to be here.
Welcome to the
Thank
show.
you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Today on the show, we'll play mailbox baseball with the greaser punk Kiefer Sutherland to sort out the following bits. The Zenimax Oculus beef is definitely heating up. We're going to talk about when transparency is necessary. Is it ever okay to be quiet about what you're making? Yes or no? And Ubisoft basically thinks they're going to make video game movies better. We'll be the judge of that. And for the lightning round, we'll pull a leash off our collective junk and feint to sort out what really happens when games can fix reality. And we're going to address that silly Xbox Onesie. Oh, Criken, welcome, man. Thank you for being here.
Hi.
If you'd be so kind, give us maybe just a taste or a look or something about what you're working on currently, how the channel's doing, or whatever is on your mind, man. Your dealer's choice. Go for it.
Sure. Well, sweet. So I'm Criken. I've been doing YouTube and Twitch for like 9 years since I was 14 years old in middle school.
Jesus Christ.
My dream was always to develop my own games. So over the last 3 years, I've been going to school at USC for game development and slowly working up a kind of a portfolio of my own work in the hopes that I can kind of break into the games industry, both as a creator as well as a commentator, sort of, I don't know, whatever you'd call a YouTuber, Twitch streamer any days.
Is influencer still a term that we're using?
Celebrity.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. E-celebrity, influencer, all those buzzwords. Yeah, I'm all that, as well as hopefully creative in my own right. So
Are you
that's what I do.
Okay. Are you strictly on YouTube, or do you do the Twitch thing too, or?
Oh, I do the Twitch thing too. I've actually recently been kind of branching more into Twitch, where I'll do a whole like 5-hour kind of Twitch stream, and then afterwards hand it to my editors, and then we'll cut it down into a series of videos.
So you have like a staff backing you up?
Yeah, they're more like friends that I pay to make a video, so I wouldn't
We
go
need a staff.
quite the staff route yet. But
Yeah, but you're paying people to. Oh man, it'd be so nice to be able to pay people to do shit for me. I swear,
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
yeah, dream.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's cool. And USC, I hear that's a pretty decent school, so that's all
it's
right.
not bad.
Not bad. Good.
It's in LA. Weather's good. People are pretty good. Some professors are always like very in the industry, and since we're in LA, it's not hard to just pop over to EA or Riot or whoever.
Right on. Yeah, we all went to DigiPen, and it's kind of a similar situation up here in Seattle.
Yeah.
Lots of companies up here.
Lots of companies, a lot of
You guys-
DigiPen staff were in the business as well.
Are you guys doing PAX in a week?
Not this year, because we've all moved on from school and are all working at companies now. And I'm sure that Chris and Bosky stuff will be happening at PAX. But are you coming out, Chris, or no?
Nope. I am not coming to PAX, sorry.
But Bosky will be there in force, I imagine.
I was gonna say I'm having a panel at PAX this year.
I can neither
on
confirm
Sunday.
nor deny.
Okay, fair enough. You got a panel happening, Criken?
Yeah.
What are you
I'm
talking
doing
about?
a panel about the transition from being a YouTuber, Twitch streamer into a developer, and kind of for those interested in kind of both careers, what the skills are associated with them, and then how they kind of bleed together, and what going from one to the other actually enables you and empowers you to do.
Is this a PAX dev or a proper PAX West
proper
talk?
PAX?
Damn, is it going to be recorded? Because that sounds like something that'd be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I think it will be.
Cool.
It's on Sunday. I assume there will be cameras. I'm gonna be like, I don't know. But it'll be a weird mix of like fan servicey stuff for the Criken fans and actual, actionable advice from anyone that's looking to break into the industry. So,
Nice, dude.
See how it goes.
That's
All right.
awesome.
Two quick questions, and then we'll move on. When are you finished up at USC?
I'm technically in my senior year now, but TBA for several reasons. So
I understand exactly how that goes. What have you been streaming / YouTubing lately?
oh boy. I recently played Vampire the Masquerade. For the first time on
shit.
which was a utter treat. I adore that game. It is the edgiest, like most ridiculous RPG I've ever played. And man, when you start like getting into the role play and putting on voices, for those that don't know, it's like a dark role play game where you play as this sexy vampire-esque sort of person that you can like, join different clans of vampires and like infiltrate human societies, and it's really actually pretty entertaining, and like a lot of love's put into it. But when I was streaming it, like I like to role play as my characters to kind of like add a little bit of spice to the stream. So
That's cool.
The vampires all talk with like kind of lisp because they have fangs, I guess, and there's kind of an interesting sort of dialect amongst them. So to kind of reciprocate that, we were always drinking when playing. So I had put the bottle caps in my mouth and just go like, yes, whatever a character says in the day should.
It's the old Marlon Brando cotton ball trick. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
With,
So
like,
was this
metal bottle caps?
the pen and paper game? Was this Redemption or Bloodlines or what?
Oh, it's Bloodline. It's the PC.
Oh my god, yes. That game is amazing, dude. I was hoping that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. And they have like different clans, and I ended up being the Malkavian, which is like the insane vampire clan.
Yep.
And I didn't even know what I was getting into. Like, you take a little like dating quiz at the beginning that like sorts you, like the sorting hat from Harry Potter. And I ended up like sorting into the insane vampire clan, where every line of dialogue is just like incoherent, just garble.
Yep.
It's amazing. Everyone go check it out.
For the,
Right on.
For the listener, the Malkavian is probably like the Harley Quinn of vampires, I guess,
Yeah.
would be like the way I'd describe it to somebody that didn't know about the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rock and roll. Well, awesome, man. We're super psyched to have you here. We're just going to go over a little quick bits, and then we're going to get right to the meat and potatoes of the show here. Very quickly, we're going to talk about what we're watching the episode down with, at least on this end. Imagine you're with your bros, and you're on an adventure to find a dead body just to see it. So to bolster said camaraderie, you have a couple beers while arguing who might win in a fight, Mighty Mouse or Superman. It's very much like doing a podcast. So we're enjoying a few delicious IPAs from the folks at Stone Brewing. It's pretty swell, guys. It's pretty swell. All right. So
Obviously Superman.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
we can have that argument later. Let's get to it, shall we?
Number one.
So there's mildly publicized lawsuit floating around a couple of years ago between the folks at Zenimax and the folks at Oculus. Zenimax obviously are known for dealing with Bethesda and id rather, and things kind of took a turn this week. They claim Palmer Luckey is a fraud, and that a lot of the VR development using the Oculus was built and produced by ZeniMax. The amended complaint now calls out Oculus executives by name and accuses John Carmack, of all people, of being a thief. They're saying that Luckey is a liar and Brendan Areve is a snake oil salesman, effectively. ZeniMax doesn't appear to want to settle, and they want to go all the way to court for a full-on, just like knockdown, drag out. It's gonna be interesting.
VR bra.
Yeah, well, only in actual reality.
Yeah.
I don't want to hype people having to get hurt by like litigious bullshit, but this is definitely shaping up to be, kind of like I said, a knockdown, drag out in actual reality.
This is something that a Predator would do. Like they waited for them to make a whole bunch of money or be really popular, because Oculus has been coming out for the past like 9 years. Everybody knew about it. Why are they now just bringing this up?
Well, that's kind of interesting. Like, well, so the lawsuit's a couple years old, right? Like they knew, like they were. Carmack left id to go to Oculus to be the CTO, right? And so when he left, apparently like there were thousands of documents that were taken off of a hard drive and like went with him, and they're basically telling ZeniMax is telling everyone, which is no small company by any right. Like they I don't know if they effectively own Bethesda and id or not, or I think Bethesda owns id, and then ZeniMax is somehow like a parent company to both.
No, ZeniMax owns all of it.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Right. So basically, there were thousands of documents and all that VR research that like Carmack and people were doing at id and Bethesda and Zenimax, it all of a sudden kind of showed up at Oculus, according to Zenimax. And so this whole idea that Lucky was like building VR from scratch in his parents' garage is like a totally falsified story that Arib and Lucky have been kind of like purporting out, like kind of giving themselves like that Steve Jobs type of story. It's really kind of interesting because like it's obviously like they said he said kind of he said she said kind of bullshit, and at the same time it's also like, is this kind of like a money grab? But if it was a money grab, then wouldn't they just be open to a settlement? Why do they want to go all the way to court? Like, what kind of point are they trying to prove here?
Well, if they go to court and they win, they'd win even more than just the money, I guess. So maybe they knew something, they were sitting on it. I don't know. It just feels weird that it's news now and not last year.
Right. Well, like the filed amendment, excuse me, was just recently like thrown in there after their 2014.
Well, I can
filing.
understand that. I mean, that stuff kind of takes time sometimes, but I don't know. It seems like it just kind of came out of nowhere because I don't know. I feel like something should have been said about it earlier. If like
it does feel like
it was a fraud,
a publicity
they should have
grab.
said it a little bit sooner.
Right.
Like when Facebook was buying them, they said, "Oh, nope, let's talk about this real quick."
Right. Criken, who do you believe, man?
Yeah, I mean, reading the article, there was a lot of accusations that both at like John Carmack and at Palmer Luckey that felt almost like just too coincidental to be true. Like they both were just malevolent people that were always like, looking at whatever they could do to get ahead of Zenimax, and the sort of stuff they're like, accusing them of is like some serious like, clandestine shit. That's like, he on the day he left, he takes a USB and loads it full of files, and like, Palmer Luckey like literally, or I forget it was either him or which one of them like went into the office and literally took the piece of hardware home with them. Like that stuff I feel like you wouldn't be able to get away with and doesn't really happen in this sort of market. Like people would notice if you're just going in, after being let go, especially if, you're leaving to another company and you just walk in and take this secret piece of hardware. I don't know. It all sounds a little too fairy tale for me. I don't believe it.
It sounds weird, but if they're actually going to court, I mean, they may have some kind
of. They're trying to. I'm not sure what stage. Like it's all probably due diligence and like information gathering.
If they wanted a settlement and they're refusing settlements, is their initial like statement we're refusing a settlement?
They've said that they want to take it all the way to court. Like they don't want to settle.
So there's been no settlement like.
Offered from either side. Yeah,
so like
and
maybe,
Oculus denies all the charges.
Maybe once the settlement offer happens, they're going to take the settlement and they're going to renege on their, like, let's take this to court no matter what.
Yeah, maybe.
But if they actually want to feel like they can take it to court, then they must have something. Like maybe they do have records of like software or hardware or something that they did take, but it still seems ridiculous.
I'm sure it was like years in development, but like for the past couple of years, all we've heard about from the VR world is like Oculus. I mean, obviously Sony, and then obviously Valve, right, working on the Vive. But like, at no point do I remember any conversation about ZeniMax being in there. You know what I mean? And I'm not to say that they weren't. You know what I mean? That they're making like That's not what I'm saying at all. But I feel like, is this like a push on their end to like reestablish relevance?
So,
or
all right, if you maybe you didn't see this, but if you think back to when Carmack first started showing off the Oculus prototype, that was when he was still at id,
right,
which had at that time been acquired by Zenimax. So it was like a wholly owned subsidiary, right? So I can only speculate, but I'd imagine that when a company buys another, there's certain things in your contract, non-compete, IP stuff, right? Especially like with a dude like Carmack, you might want to try to exert like IP control over like anything that he might invent. So yeah, I mean, it's totally feasible that I don't know, whatever they're alleging about Palmer Luckey, I don't know the guy, so I don't want to speculate on like his technical expertise, but I mean, what's clear is that, Palmer or Carmack or whatever, someone had a prototype and showed someone else the prototype while people were employed at various companies, and work may have been done on the prototype, both hardware and software wise, while people were employed. And so I think that's where it starts to get a little bit complicated.
Sure.
Because even if ZeniMax had not, had like this directive for Carmack to be researching VR, and he was just doing it on his own.
I got the impression he was kind of doing it on his own as like a hobby thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure, but that doesn't mean that if he's using work resources that they don't actually get to exert ownership over it. And so maybe that's where these claims are starting to come from now.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, like the birth of VR was a very social thing. Like you can pretty much go back to forums and track, the conversations between John Carmack and Palmer Luckey when they were, originally discussing working on this, and there's this whole community that were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this and this, and everyone did their own research and their own work to see if it was possible. So I agree that's kind of a gray area because there was no original kind of founder. It was all kind of a group effort.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely don't think it was a malevolent thing where everyone was like, Zenimax has done this work, let us take it and make it our own.
Right.
I think they're trying to exert ownership after the fact, on one of their employees who happened to, be one of the people that made it possible.
I agree with you. I think that's where I'm at too on the whole story.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think, like you said, it could they're trying to win on a technicality because maybe they were buying the company at the time, I guess. And like I said, they own the stuff if you use the company resources to create anything.
That seems to a huge oversight on Carmack's part, if that's true, though. The guy's bored. I don't know this guy, but he's he's been around forever. The guy, he's one of the preeminent engineers in the industry. You know what I mean? People the guy just won a fucking BAFTA, for Christ's sake, a few months ago. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For him to kind of be like, oh, I have this hobby, and yes, I'm kind of working at it at work too, but for me to do a personal project on company resources seems like something not even an intern would do. You know what I mean? So that's weird. I
don't know. I like the analogy that it definitely was a social invention in a way, the whole.
Well, there's been all that talk, right, of all these companies that are actually kind of working together to solve these development problems, how it's been a very collaborative process.
It started, and then ever since they actually came out, these guys have become more and more
exclusive or whatever.
It's let's not let Oculus games run on the Vive or something, and then we'll allow the hacks to actually let that happen or something.
I suppose that's to be expected.
It felt very open source when VR was first coming out, and now it's a fucking
now it's a business, straight up.
All the big companies bought in. If you look at the VR software or hardware nowadays, it's not a pet project anymore. Anyone that has a VR piece of hardware is the big deal, and they have a whole fleet of lawyers ready to bring you down if you try to.
This is big business in effectively. So
it's kind of sad because I was really open for the open source of VR. I think when VR was first coming out, that was the most exciting aspect of it. It's Valve and Oculus are working together to figure out VR, and then suddenly we won't allow our games to run on the other one.
And then hacks come in, and then it gets messy. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know. Big business, man. God damn it. Yeah. I don't know. Final thoughts, gentlemen, before we move on? I don't know. What do you think? Is it... hopefully everybody just settles, everybody gets paid a little bit, and then everybody moves on.
It'll be interesting to see how it develops and how this will affect Facebook stock. And
that's the other interesting part is that Facebook bought Oculus after the filing happened. Mm-hmm. So they were completely aware.
More money than Zenimax, right?
Sure.
So
I guess. I mean,
legally, it's sort of they could fight it forever, I guess, but it's not in anyone's best interest to do that. So I'm curious to see how this is going to get resolved and what the outcome is going to be.
And there's definitely been the VR. I think now that I think about from Zenimax, where it's they're doing the Fallout 4 stuff, they're doing Doom stuff, trying to make that all portable and some of that stuff exists already. You know what I mean? So I guess I don't know. It's super weird, super complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oculus is going to prevail no matter what. Facebook's not going to let that thing sink, and. No. There's just been so much attention and hype put into the VR space that an old quote unquote old media, especially it's funny considering they're all video game companies, but an old company trying to grasp at this new thing that's taking off is not going to be enough to hold it back. So I think it won't affect the future of VR. I think it will be a wrinkle that will be smoothed out kind of soon. I really don't think it's going to last much longer, though.
No, that's maybe a good call. In fact, thinking back on it too, I'm curious too, because didn't Zenimax / Bethesda sue Mojang when Notch was building that game, that card game called Scrolls, just because the whole Elder Scrolls thing? Didn't they get a little aggressive with that shit, and they had to settle that too? So I don't know. We'll see.
That was silly. Yeah.
So all right, fair enough. Everybody chill out. Let's just have fun and make games, guys. God damn.
Number 2.
Games get delayed, often many times. Specifically, we're going to reference a COG Connected post talking about Below that's being developed by Capybara. This game's been kicking around in development since probably before the current console generation was initiated. It's been shown at E3 this past summer. We saw it. It looks great. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. But it was obviously shown in a much more bite-sized way. That being said, they announced that they're going dark until they're ready to announce a release date. So, as you know, like I said before, we see games getting delayed all the time, sometimes multiple times. Like we saw recently with like Final Fantasy 15 and all that. But when is transparency a good thing? When is it not? Like, I'm actually kind of interested to talk to you about this, Chris, because I feel like Bosky's definitely been on like a very transparent kind of front. Like that's been the approach from the community management and the studio as a whole. But at the same time, like when is it like better to just kind of like keep your head down and out of the public, public eye, like why not have people talking about it? Why have people talking about it? Obviously, you kind of want to build hype, but how much control do you want to have? I don't know. There's so many questions, but I don't know. Like, I'm not necessarily interested in the Below specifics. What I'm interested in really here is about. I think it's obvious that we all want to see a game get delayed until it's ready, instead of it being a broken thing upon release, which we've seen way too frequently, I think, in the past few years. But I think we're seeing a trend more and more where it's like, you know what? We have the resources to kind of like sit back, figure out what's wrong, and do it. I don't know. I'm curious how you guys feel about this.
That's what people wanted, I thought. Like, they wanted people to fix the games before they come out, in a way, I guess. I
think that's what we're getting to, but I think also, like, this game's also been, like, this is one of those ones that's kind of been under the radar. Like, I'm not going to put it on the same level as, like, a Final Fantasy 15 or No Man's Sky, for instance, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which had a mild delay.
Yeah.
And those guys had a ton of problems, unrelated, that kind of, like, screwed up development for them. But
I can speak to it, like, a little bit, I guess, but I don't know how much insight I can offer.
I'm just saying from like an aspect of like what's the like why be super public versus being very, very like contained.
So I think in this era of game development that we're in now, where like news spreads really fast and it's not just as simple as saying like, hey, Kotaku, like here's some news about our game, please post it. Like anyone can kind of produce news content, and anything that you say or do surrounding your game can be taken out of context and has many, many, many more opportunities to be taken out of context. So say I was working on a game and I was super transparent about it, and I talked and I promised all these features, and then for whatever reasons I couldn't deliver on everything that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. Either design complications or engineering or any number of other things, and then I have to push the game out. Then if there's any period in time where I had to maybe stop being as transparent, or where my transparency got me into trouble, I'm going to get crucified. And like, let's look at pretty much anything Peter Molyneux's ever done in set and release. Let's look at No Man's Sky as another example of how this happens.
How hype can get you, it can burn you in the long run. Yeah.
There's definitely like a fine line to walk between being transparent and connecting with your community and getting them involved in the development process, and keeping certain things kind of close to the chest until you're really ready to talk about them, so you don't spend all this time messaging why you couldn't deliver. Because even if there's always going to be some amount of people that are going to see the first video in which you promised something and never see the subsequent videos in which you talked about why you couldn't deliver it. They're just going to get the final product and be pissed that this thing you said a year ago didn't come to fruition.
Okay. So does the problem exist or does blame, not necessarily that there should be blame, but does it lie on both sides, both like the fans being overzealous and or quote unquote entitled versus like the developers just trying to put something out?
I don't really feel comfortable sort of answering that one way or the other.
You don't have to. I'm just it's more like a rhetorical question. You know what I mean? Like, all right, Criken, for instance, like you're transitioning into development. Like, I mean, if you had the ability to pick one way or the other, to be like completely transparent and try and build a certain amount of hype, or at least like cultivate an audience, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. But at the same time, like, or having to choose between being like, you know what, I don't necessarily want anybody to know about this. I want to kind of keep it and work on it until it's ready because I have the resources to do so in a perfect world. Like, which would you ultimately choose?
This is a super relevant question, and I'd love to talk more about details, but like Chris, I should also watch what I say. What I can say, though, is this is a thing that has, like, I am very split in my opinions of. In one hand, I am all for transparency with the community, getting everyone on the same page, being very open with what's going on and making them feel like they're a part of the journey and you're all in this together. But on the other hand, I'm also very aware that the internet and the communities therein, aren't very good at understanding how development works in like an actual, practical sense. And if you are to be transparent with them, they're going to draw connections that you can't really avoid, and it'll often lead to the controversies of things that happen, such as No Man's Sky and like those other things, where, you may share before it's time a feature that you're excited about, or a screenshot or an idea that you've been kicking around that you think would be amazing, and then when it comes to actually producing it, it doesn't either happen the way you promised it would, or it turns out not to be fun for whatever reason, and you decide it's worth cutting, and people will hold you to that till the end of time. And I think that's a very scary reality for a lot of developers. And although, specifically, like in my world, I know what it's like to kind of carry this community along and try and keep them up to date with what's going on. You need to really pick and choose what you share with them because, people will run with theories, and if you don't get ahead of them, then they can suddenly become the narrative of your game that you didn't craft for yourself. And then when it turns out not to be true, you're accused of misleading when, it was never.
It's a misappropriated like ownership. Yeah, like they've taken ownership over something. Yeah, no,
the community.
It's the internet, man. Like this shit happens. Like it's a reality whether we want it to be or not, right? So let me ask you this then. So in the case of Below specifically, like they've come at, like, it's been relatively quiet. Like I'm sure that there's plenty of like Reddit, like threads or forums that talk about Below and stuff like that. But and they may even interact on that level. But at the same time, like this game has been in development for a long time. And I don't remember seeing very much, at least from like a media standpoint, news about it, right? So they've come out of the woodwork to say that they're going dark. So it's like, we've been non-transparent. We're going to be transparent for 5 seconds to let you know that we're going to be even less transparent. You know what I mean? And that's okay, fine. You're absolutely entitled to do that. But is that the kind of message? Is it a relevant one? Like, does it make sense? Like, I'm curious. Like, did it need to be said in the first place?
My reaction to that is a lot of news about games. It's very interesting for me to see what news kind of burrows through the public consciousness, because if you take, for example, Sean Murray talking about No Man's Sky, and you look back at the first interviews he's done, back when they first announced the game way long ago, and you look at the interviews now, that's a very kind of clear story of, wow, we've been misled. This game isn't what we thought it would be. But if you were to look back and look at literally every piece of information that company has ever released about the game, I'd be willing to bet you'd find a much more clear narrative of, look, here's what we think the game's going to be. And then, oh, wait, okay.
Here's where it ended up on ship date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so on one hand, having someone say like, okay, we're going to go radio dark makes news, but maybe the week before they had released something that they weren't comfortable with, and they realized, that's going to be a problem down the line. Maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Let's walk it back a little bit.
They should go radio dark. Yeah. So very few people, I guess the point is, very few people online actually do the due diligence to look through and understand the whole story. And instead, they kind of take the headlines, the sensational kind of topics of, look, these people, are going against their word, and they blow that out of proportion. So I don't really blame them for trying to keep it, personal and try to work on it, themselves. I think games are an awkward sort of medium to do that in, because they're so public and consumer facing that, any piece of a game you release, people get excited about. So
You can't see me, but I'm nodding my head vigorously. Yes.
So what the message becomes then maybe not that this is a perfect solution, but like I think all of us understand this, and I think developers everywhere understand this. But it's you have a vision for a game and you start making it, and if you have any kind of traction with the media or with your publisher or however you're releasing it, right? You make these promises, especially with like even if you're like crowdfunding, right? Like what you promise on Kickstarter and what ends up becoming that kind of thing. Maybe the message that everybody needs to start sending, especially from a developer side, is like this is game development and it takes a long time, especially depending on the scope of your project. So things might change. So like while we want to give you this thing, there's a very general kind of vision for the project, but understand that like development is a very fickle process, and the things that become possible or impossible or that don't work in the long run might end up becoming something else. And it's like, well, we have a setting and we have some characters. That stuff is probably going to stay the same, but ultimately like mechanics or multiplayer or some of that single player experience, for instance, might end up changing by the time the game ships, whether or not it gets delayed or how transparent we are. Like maybe that's the message we need to be kind of like promoting.
I think, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm all for propagating that message, and I think that is definitely accurate. I think that's a hard thing for people to accept.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Unless they've done it themselves, it's a hard thing for them to understand the true nature of, and it's also not very sexy. It's not
at all. You're right.
When you're doing a thing like a Kickstarter and you're trying to gain kind of marketing and like public support, and you launch it with like, okay, here's what I think this game is, but also, maybe not. So if you kind of do that, people are gonna be like, oh, you don't know what you're making. I'm not gonna give you any money.
Sure.
So it's a tough line to walk. I wish development as a whole was more open in general, so people could not just like intuit this or like be told this, but they can actually watch it happen. Like if there were dev diaries from a studio where every week you could see this iteration where wow, we thought this would be a great idea, but actually after implementing it didn't turn out so well.
But here's why. Like here's a reason for it. Yeah.
I think some companies are trying to do that, and I think it's been working out pretty well for them. Like I know Evolve with their new free to play, they've been doing.
That's a really good example.
Yeah, streams a week where they talk about here's what's coming up. They literally put up their Trello board on the stream and say, look, here's what we're planning to release.
Holy shit! Really?
This is why, and like their community's all for it. So I hope this is a new trend. I'm all for involving the community earlier on, so hopefully that works out.
Well, you guys do something similar too, Chris, at Bosky, right? Like with the weekly streams and stuff like that. Like
we haven't done any Boss Room weekly streams we've actually been dark for a bit as well. It's like, but you just haven't noticed.
It's true, because like you guys are super active on like social media. Like that's true. I actually haven't noticed. Like that's true.
Yeah, like, exactly. So in any case, and there's always good reasons for like when you make news and when you don't make news, and this is something I've thought a lot about. And actually, Criken and I had a conversation about this a little bit at GDC this year, where I think part of what needs to change is people who are fans of games who are also fans of game development. If you can get them sort of incorporated in your process early on and educate them in like how your game is getting made, why decisions are or are not getting made, why things are getting changed, et cetera, et cetera. And then these people also are like well respected within the community surrounding your game, then it's always going to be an uphill battle really for the developer kind of to try to shape this narrative. It's always going to be that way, I think. And until people that are influential in the community start actually helping you to shape the narrative, and they evangelize and they educate other people, and it takes that load off of you. And it's not going to be a perfect process, and it's going to take time and it's going to take effort. But I think at some point, most fans could potentially be educated on the development process and help the rest of the community sort of understand why decisions are getting made. But there has to be a huge effort on the part of the publishers and the developers to actually make that happen. And there's a lot that can go wrong, so there's a lot of incentive to not do that either.
Well, especially from like a publisher angle, like they don't necessarily want to put things out there because media management and dealing with like dealing with all that is a huge burden. You know what I mean? It's a lot to handle.
I think it has to either start really small or it has to start at like a huge company with tons of influence. But it's not going to happen kind of like in the middle, I don't think.
No, I think you're right. I think this is once again like we're seeing maybe a theme emerge here outside of Stand By Me, where it's fucking big business, man. It's games more and more. It's becoming this huge thing. A lot of money riding on it. A lot of people have a lot of emotion and a lot of effort and energy invested, and it gets very complicated very, very quickly.
All right.
Cool.
I was thinking, while we were talking about the entire topic, I was thinking like, hey, what if we just show them our production schedule, like the stuff that you work on, Joe?
Well, like Criken was saying,
exactly
the way Evolve is doing the Trello board, I'm like, holy shit, that's
fucking... like why can't we show that? When I get excited for games, it's because I'm reading the patch notes of the next patch that's coming out. These are things that people have implemented for the game, and I'm going to play this because it's coming out in the next patch. It's the patch notes. It's explaining explicitly what I'm going to get, and I read the patch notes before I even became a game developer. Like it's how I don't know. I knew what the game was going to be.
Stayed in touch with what was happening.
Yeah. And now it's a lot of these companies are more like talking about their grand vision of the game, and they're trying to explain like, hey, we want to do this and this and that in space with like multiple players and everything, and people don't understand that stuff's not implemented yet. And this is a huge problem because when you're trying to do a Kickstarter, you need to have those grandiose plans, and you need to explain to the community this is what you want to do. But then you need to start releasing the patch notes of like every version of the game that you're putting out. This is what we implemented. This is what we plan on putting out for the next patch. This is what our QA department is going to be testing next. Like, people need to be more transparent about that. And just by doing that, they're going to get an idea of what the game is, and they're going to have a better understanding of what the development process is also.
Well, but it's an excellent exercise in trying to manage expectations if you're willing to hear it.
Yeah, but you need that guy in there to explain like, hey, we added +4 strength to this weapon because it was unbalanced. Like, they needed to do this kind of thing. We
have specific details on why.
You need like one person like writing up all that kind of stuff, and that's a lot of work. Like that's actually more work than people think. Like
that's not a community manager. That's like a data analyst.
Yeah, and they can't just analyze data. They gotta understand the process of the game also. Like, I don't know.
No, fair enough.
I just feel like what we were talking about is like, yeah, what if we just released our project boards, like what we used to work like? Then people would be exactly on board with what we're trying to release.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then, but it also gives like that minutia where like people get to start like having opinions about that too. And like,
yeah, but it doesn't matter. These are what is coming out of the next patch. It doesn't mean we can't change it later or something.
You don't fucking work here.
Expectation is like a dangerous thing online. Like once you start being completely transparent, people don't expect you to change. And changing it's the same on YouTube or Twitch, wherever that is. Like, if you're scheduling I will stream every week on this day at this hour, and you push it back an hour, or you cancel it a day, or you are going on a trip and you have to change it for like a week, that always causes big ripples in the community. So the more transparent you are, the less freedom you have in a lot of ways, because you're held to that standard by the community.
It's it kind of sucks. Remember back in the day when I just used to go to the store and buy the game that had I
had zero expectations about it. I'm like, oh, that label looks cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Like, what is this? Like flying cars, Hot Wheels? Another Sonic game? I'll just buy that. Like, it's I didn't. There were no media outlets. Like, you just bought the game,
or we were too young to give a shit if there was. Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. I saw one commercial for it on TV at one point, and I was like, yep, I'm good. I'm a kid. I'm gonna buy that.
Yeah. I don't know. I was watching old school Super NES commercials the other day. Fucking Paul Rudd, Ant-Man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, in one of the original Super NES.
How old was he?
He was fucking young. He was really young. Anyway. All right. Moving on. Moving on.
Number 3.
Head of Ubisoft Films, Jean-Julien Baronet, or Baronet, I don't speak French, thinks that the powerhouse combo of Tomb Raider and Assassin's Creed movies that are upcoming in the next couple of years will mark a turnaround for the often embattled existence of the video game movie. Is he right? I mean, Warcraft didn't exactly do it, but when you have a giant studio behind it, everybody knows. Everybody knows how that went. Despite the talent in front of and or behind the camera, what makes these franchises poised to make it turn around, eh? We talk about video game movies a lot, but I feel like we needed to address these claims directly. So, Is it just obligatory like CEO hype being like, oh, these are going to be great, everybody should like hang in there and just hang in, and make it good?
We can talk about the point. I just want to point out the fact that he's like, oh, the next iteration is going to be great because it's an Ubisoft game that's coming out. This guy's like the vice president.
Well, he's talking about Tomb Raider 2, which is not an Ubisoft game.
I know, but when I was reading the articles, oh yeah, that Tomb Raider movie's coming out too. But he's very much like Assassin's Creed is coming out. It's like it's going to be great.
Sure, fair enough. To hit the pop culture node here a little bit. I'm curious, like he's probably right to a certain degree. He obviously, safely doesn't put a timeline on it, other than the fact by saying like
someday video game movies are going to be good.
Right. Like they're getting better talent in front of the camera. They're getting better and better talent behind the camera. Like it's not. Look, everybody forgets that the guy who played Mario and his name is escaping right now in the Super Mario movies.
Roger Rabbit guy.
Yes, the Roger Rabbit guy. I really wish it's fucking me up right now. It's going to bother me all night. But was like a classically trained actor. You know what I mean? Like very well known, very respected. And John Leguizamo is John Leguizamo. Yeah. But who's a pretty funny guy. He's a great comedian. Anyway, but we're getting like quality directors. We're getting quality actors. Like Michael Fassbender is the assassin, and we're getting Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft. You know what I mean? Like these are Oscar-winning people. Actually, I'm not sure if Fassbender's won an Oscar yet, but he's been nominated. It's coming.
He's good.
He'll get one. He's great. He's great. Yeah. So the talent is getting there. Like, so are we poised for a turnaround? Like, we're not talking about like U-Bowl movies anymore.
This doesn't change anything. Like, we've had talent in the previous movies. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so look at Resident Evil, for instance, right?
Resident Evil is the best example of a mediocre video game movie in a way. Like, it's constant. It's sustained. It's sustained. They're making one more, and like they're finishing it up, and they didn't stop making them. They just kept making them, and everyone's like, "Why do they keep making these movies?" It's like because Mila Jovovich is in it.
Yeah,
but
true story.
It's I like the Resident Evil movies. Like out of all the video game movies, I think those are my favorite, just because they completely went away from the source material in a way.
Right.
They're telling their own story, and when I read this article, they're like, "Oh, we're telling an origin story for Tomb Raider." Is like, oh god damn it! Every fucking video game player knows the origin story for this shit.
Lara Croft, yeah.
Like, just tell me some fucking episodic adventure of this like kick-ass British chick that's going into tombs and raiding them.
Right? Who's like, it's Indiana Jones but better, or somehow, you know what I mean? Whatever. Absolutely. I think you alluded to something that's very interesting, and this is what I find works better. Like where Warcraft maybe got itself into trouble is they tried to base it on the existing story. They tried to tell the story that has been like set forth by Blizzard, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Resident Evil, for instance, works maybe a little bit better because they use the universe, but they don't tell the story of the games. They just happen. These movies exist within the universe. And then there's some character
and then they
overlap.
Throw the characters in, and people are happy.
It's straight up fan service, and it's fine. You know what I mean? And it sounds, from what I've read, that Assassin's Creed is going to be doing that too. Mm-hmm. They're like, yes, it exists in the same universe. There's a lot of recognizable costumes and characters and whatever, but it's also like a unique story unto itself. Tomb Raider, maybe not so much, but is the key to making a successful video game movie using the universe, not necessarily the story. How about that?
That one's for you guys.
All right. I don't know. Video game movies, I think they'll find their day. I think.
Do you have a favorite one?
I don't have a lot of opinion on them. I guess it's like there's been a lot of shit ones, but at the same time, Hollywood's like not super good at understanding what makes it like. I mean, video games are great because they're interactive, and I feel like you're kind of missing, the point when you're trying to turn an interactive movie into a classic like Hollywood script. So I would be more interested in seeing like an indie movie studio trying to tackle an indie game movie, or someone that was like coming at it with a little more
just understanding,
like Tetris.
Yeah, understanding of the world, but also just kind of like ability to pivot and like kind of more agile. Because when you're like writing scripts in the formula that scripts have been written forever, I just feel like you're boiling down a whole interactive world that people know so fondly into a 3-act structure, which is never going to feel good.
Suggesting like a Sundance film video game movie or something, like one of those fancy art films that is actually a video game? Like that'd be.
I think you can go further than that. I think it's the fan films that you see all the time that either get shut down or are just these like love letters to the things that these people love.
The Lego movie was a love letter to Legos in a way, and like if they did something like that with video games, it'd be awesome.
Lego movie is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Like that is taking a toy which is interactive. It is a thing that is, not there was no set story, and then they embraced what made it Legos.
Yeah.
Like it was the customizability, it was the improv, it was the this meets this, the mashup nature, and it crafted like a perfect story that captured all of those moments.
It was it's fucking great.
It's amazing.
And people they think of game universes as like the same as a book universe or as a movie universe, and it's not really like that. It's more like Lego, where the affordances of Resident Evil, of Lara Croft, of Assassin's Creed are the certain user experience that the player gets when they play that. As Assassin's Creed, it is that feeling of being like better than life, like choose how you inject yourself into a situation and walk away with the assassin, or assassinating the guy in the perfect way and disguising, disappearing into the crowd, and the moral conflicts of killing people for a greater cause or whatever that is. Like, that's kind of like the roots of the game, and then finding a way to incorporate those that like I don't know, movies try to do it in a way that's all based on character and a theme and a plot, and I think it gets messy. You lose sight of, as a lot of the game, like Ubisoft itself, I think has lost sight of the goals of Assassin's Creed in a lot of ways with their more recent games. So I guess that's why I'm not like optimistic about Ubisoft specifically, but about video game movies, I think there are definitely a way to do them right. I just don't know if they're the right people to do it right now.
I like the Lego.
Well said. First of all, well done. I think that's pretty on point. And I'm maybe some of that USC film program is bleeding over into the game development. I got to tell you, but that's a really trite thing to say. I apologize, but I think. Ultimately, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Like, there's a certain amount of fan service that needs to be done, but at the same time, like, you need to, like, instead of cramming a 40-hour video game into a 2-hour movie, maybe just let the movie be what it is.
No, I like that. Like what you're saying. I guess I was trying to say the same thing, but I didn't. No, say like when I was saying like I don't want any more origin movies or something. I mean, and I said it like I wanted an episodic video. Like I just want like a movie that kind of takes place in this universe and give me the feel of that game. Like, if you made a Resident Evil game, show me some random character that's just fucking thriving on the street or something. Like, you can make a really interesting story out of that one person and be like, hey, this exists because Resident Evil exists. Like, and that would make a good movie.
Don't feel like you need to explain why Resident Evil is what it is. Like, I swear, how many Hitman movies have there been? And they all, like, try to get at who the Hitman character is and why he's doing what he's doing. And it's like, dude, he's a fucking cloned assassin that is like... changes clothes into whoever he wants to perfectly position himself in the moment of the kill. And like, the games are goofy in their own right, so why take them so seriously? Like, there's some action, like Bourne trilogy, ripoff. I don't know.
Sure. It's that Hollywood like money grab. Like, oh, people like this thing, let's turn it into a movie. Understood, but like, we're past that point now. So like, how do we make those movies entertaining? And I think maybe like that's where the argument starts, right? Like, how do we make these things worth going to see? Like, how do we make Assassin's Creed into a cool Lego movie?
I was just thinking, like, Minecraft would be a good one because it's basically Legos. And
it's a sandbox, right? You can do whatever you want. Yeah. They tried that with like the story mode of like the episodic nature of Minecraft. Yeah, the Telltale, exactly.
Did that one do well? I didn't play it.
Not so much.
Yeah. Well, maybe for kids. I don't know. I can't sit there for
sure. I'm kind of beyond the Minecraft bubble at this point.
But the Telltale Batman game is supposed to be like the best Batman game ever.
I'm hearing good things. Yeah. At least about the first episode.
The biggest problem for big companies is they're afraid of committing to making a movie about a world that they feel not enough people know about. So, like, if you're going to make a movie about Resident Evil, you're like, well, we got to explain what Resident Evil is, otherwise people are just going to be like, what the hell's going on here? But that's not really the case. Like, if you look at other movies like, like 28 Days Later, like, well, you understand 28 Days Later of an infection, hence why there are zombies everywhere. Like, you just kind of jump right into
But it's also like a fresh take on it, like they can run fast, so get ready, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and Resident Evil, and like, these other video game movies, I think Hollywood's constantly kind of backpedaling, trying to justify why it's a movie in this universe, rather than just accepting that it's in this universe and making a good movie out of that.
What? Nail on the head, man.
It's really hard for them. I mean, these games are like tailored to be blockbusters, so as the nature of blockbusters, they don't necessarily have as much thought put into them for their plot and everything. Sure. They're just trying to put out this movie that appeals to as many people as possible.
Yeah, so it's a cash grab.
Yeah,
it's a cash grab.
I know, but like when you say like 28 Days Later isn't like, they could have called that Resident Evil and people wouldn't know what that is if they advertised it correctly. Like, they did a good job, I think, with the movie already.
It's Danny Boyle, man. Yeah.
And they're just like, hey, this actually takes place in the Resident Evil universe, but you didn't know that. Even if they called it 28 Days Later. Or
just like in the last 5 minutes be like, hey, no, here's an Umbrella Corp logo.
People would have flipped out, I think. But
yeah, agreed.
Like, they can create these small little stories inside these universes. Like, just imagine that 28 Days Later did exist in the Resident Evil universe, and it was part of, not necessarily the canon or something, but it was just like this random story, and it would have stood out like great. Like, this would have been a fucking great video game movie just because of that reason.
No, I don't know. You're not wrong. It's an interesting thought for sure.
I'm in that movie. Did you know I'm Cillian Murphy? People say I look like him.
Have fun shaving without shaving cream. Yeah. I don't know, gentlemen. What do you think? Like, if they're okay, so let me ask you this. Like, so we're seeing these are on the way, and then Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive is out now as kind of a 20-year follow up to Advent Children or whatever the
20 years. No,
it's whatever, a long time since the Final Fantasy. Spirits Within. That's what it was, and. I don't know. People are saying like, yeah, wait for the game, that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. When is Hollywood going to get it right? What's it going to take?
To be honest, Spirits Within is one of the better video game movies because it doesn't exist within like a.
Well, it sure shit looked nice back in the day.
Yeah, it looked great. Now it's kind of got that Uncanny Valley kind of thing going on, but it was still great. I mean, what's the guy's name? Is it
as a character or the actors?
The characters. I mean, they got Bill Pullman in there, so they got
Alec Baldwin too. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, but I'm thinking the one guy. The poet from fucking Big Fish. I know. I can say that because I know Joe will be able to. Was it Ewan
McGregor? It's not Ewan McGregor. It's
no, he was the main character.
The older guy?
No,
the older version of Ewan McGregor?
The little nerdy guy. He was in Armageddon also with as the guy. You know who I'm talking. Okay, it doesn't matter, but
the guy from Boardwalk Empire. Carter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's.
I didn't hear what you said, Chris.
I was just trolling you.
Oh. Sorry. Sorry. We don't need to play the game. Who was that guy in that movie?
Yeah, 6 Degrees of whoever his name is. Yeah,
it was probably Kevin Bacon.
All right, fair enough.
But no, I like that movie. I don't know if you guys liked it at all, but I'm just saying.
Well, Big Fish was great.
I say the Spirits Within because
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
We're talking about video game movies.
Yeah, video game movies. The Final Fantasy Spirit Within, and I like it because it wasn't just a plot telling of Final Fantasy VII. Like, it wasn't.
I never even got to weigh in on this topic, but I think Dungeon Siege was
up,
far and away my best and most favorite video game movie.
Is that the one with Statham?
Yes.
It wasn't called Dungeon Siege. It was called Dungeon Siege in the Name of the King.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was Bull, who's done. He did all like the Blood Rain movies. And
I watched one of those. I also watched Postal, which was good.
There you go.
It was also good.
Criken, how do you feel about Postal?
I just hear Yubol is just an asshole. No thoughts.
Fair enough.
You should watch one of his movies. At least,
honestly though,
at the very minimum.
Yeah.
If video game movies get better, what are we gonna have to bitch about?
Video games.
Yeah. Well, that's never going to go away, right?
We're never going to run out of stuff to bitch about, dude.
Yeah.
I think we got a ways before video game movies get good.
I hope they do get good. I want to see good video game movies. I agree. I think it needs to take that kind of like Lego movie turn, like you were talking about, Criken. I think that's a good way to put it. At the same time, I don't know. It depends on the franchise. It depends on a bunch of things.
If this Assassin's Creed movie is going to do that kind of thing where like they're not trying to tell the story of any of the Assassin's Creed games, they're just trying to say like, hey, this is something that exists in the universe. It has the potential to be like entertaining, I suppose, because I like Michael Fassbender. He's good.
Yeah. But Marion Cotillard, who's going to be in it as well, is the female lead. She's fantastic, Oscar winner. You know what I mean? Just saying. We'll see. All right, we're gonna
Ubisoft, whatever.
And we know how Criken feels about Ubisoft. So
yeah,
there you go. All right, we're gonna jump to the lightning round, everybody. Here's how it works. We're gonna take 2 quick topics and give each member of the panel a minute to chime in, uninterrupted for the most part. There might be some groans and laughs in the background, but the panelists will have 60 seconds to talk about how they feel about the topic at hand. At the end of each minute, we will award the panelists a quantity of some type of points based on nothing in particular. Our distinguished guest will be in charge of awarding me, Joe, as the host points from my perspective. All right. So topic the first. In case you were wondering how cool video games are, here's a great example. City Skylines is officially being used by the Swedish civil engineers in Stockholm to help develop more efficient systems in areas of the city that need it. So yay games. Does this prove that City Skylines has supremacy over SimCity? I don't know. We can talk about that if you want. Can you guys think about other games acting as applications to help solve real-world problems? That's a super general question. The answer is yes. I'm just curious which ones you might reference. But you're going to each have 60 seconds to talk about this. I'm going to start with Chris Morris.
Hey, Chris Morris.
I think that it is super awesome that City Skylines is being used as a civil engineering tool. And I think that more games with like robust simulations, or even just like, I don't know, looking at how Minecraft was used for education, ought to be made for those very reasons. And if nothing else, I think what games like that do is they get people really excited about things like that as maybe even potential future careers. I know that the original SimCity got me really excited about just the nature of design in general. So I'm kind of like all for as much stuff like this as possible.
All right, I'm going to award you one Trilby signed by Notch.
Cool, thanks.
There you
man.
go.
Love it.
Congratulations. That was a good point. No, I think you're right. I think you're very. You were very succinct.
It was very safe.
You addressed it. You addressed it appropriately. Well done. Mr. Golish.
Hey, how's it going?
I'd like you to give me 60 seconds on how games can help reality.
I liked Chris's point a lot. He stole my Minecraft reference that I was going to use.
Sorry.
It's okay for now. But it reminded me of that time when America invaded Denmark in Minecraft. Yeah. I don't know if it was Denmark, but it was one of those countries over there that were using Minecraft to actually like have students like design, how would they design a building or something, and then they actually like would make it in real life to actually see how it was, which is kind of cool. But this is cool. Like I like City Skylines. The biggest thing about that I thought of was the traffic simulation, because that's kind of what screws you in that game. If you don't plan out your roads, then your city fucking sucks. But everybody complains about traffic all the time. So, I mean, if they can plan this kind of stuff out earlier, then it might work well. But I feel like people go to school to design cities and stuff. They should know how to do this stuff a little bit already. But
Fair enough.
I don't know. I like the idea of go video games.
I'm going to award you one copy of City Skylines so that you can specifically. I have it already. I know. To redesign Seattle traffic, because fuck Seattle traffic.
It's not their fault. It's so hilly.
It's a civil engineer's like practical joke and or worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Please solve this problem. You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay. Criken.
Yes.
I am interested on your 60 seconds here. You
Right.
can start now.
Okay. Well, a lot of people have spoken, I think, to my points as well. But I will add that I think it opens up for a whole new area of specific training around careers that were always hard to kind of get a trial in. So things like prison architect, designing the perfect prison to house a bunch of digital inmates. Who knew I wanted to be a prison architect, but now you can. Things like surgeon simulator. Who knew surgeons had that easy a time cutting into a person, and now I feel like I can get a really good try at it with that new Steam game. So
That game's not easy.
Even as far as fantasy, we can go to goat simulator, bear simulator. I can feel what it's like to be an animal that I would have no other way of understanding. And for that, I have all the world to thank. So thank you, video games, for letting me walk in those 4 paws.
Wow, that was 2 seconds short of a minute. That was pretty good.
And you can't even see the clock, so well done. I'm gonna award you a giant hourglass full of sand that
I can
literally crafts 58 seconds perfectly. It's not a minute; it's 58 seconds.
Is it the sands of time?
With Jake
Gyllenhaal?
How big is the sand kernels then? If they're 58 seconds and they're giant.
Well done. I think you did it really. That was. I appreciated the snark. I appreciated the irony, and I really appreciated the fact that you referenced so many different simulators in one foul swoop. It was.
He kind of owned that. Like, we took all of his talking points and then he just sort of like
He's like, "Fuck you! I'm going to do even better." Yeah, that was our guests. It's weird how loosely we describe the lightning round and how often the guests are way better at it than we are. Yeah. All right. I'm going to take the last minute here. Criken, it'll be up to you to award me points for this one.
Oh, jeez.
All right.
Okay.
I think it's awesome that people are looking to video games, especially like accurate or less accurate simulations, to craft an experience that is something that you can draw upon to kind of like define an experience that is usable in a realistic setting, whether it be planning for civil engineering within city skylines, or like we said, Criken said, goat simulator, for instance, where like how crazy can shit get when a goat runs around. I think what the best part about all of this is that we're seeing more and more real world applications, and we've been saying this a lot recently in the past few episodes of the show. But guess what, Mom? Didn't rot my brain. It made it better. So there you go.
Good work.
I like that. I'll give you one human brain, fully functional. Do with it as you will.
Nice.
I feel like I could use a new one.
I feel like you could use it. Yeah.
We drink a lot on this show, so I could, just having a new, like, can I have a liver too? That would be cool.
No,
I'll take one too.
Just the brain?
Maybe,
Fair enough.
with this next one.
Okay. I got to learn from my mistakes. I appreciate that. Yeah. All right. Second lightning round topic coming at you. We've all seen it. While price points for the Scorpio are getting bandied about at exceptional prices, and we're coming up on the fall games release schedule. Like, game hype is getting bigger. Microsoft decided to build to that fervor that they were going to release is it a pajama set? It's a onesie. It's got pockets for control. It's an Xbox One onesie. I feel like we all need to take a step back and question our priorities at this point. I'm inflecting my own opinion upon this. However, I want to know how each of you feel about this. Whether or not you would buy one, even as a joke gift for somebody else. I want to know if you did have one gifted to you, would you actually use it? I want to know how you feel about Microsoft being like, this was a good idea. Let's make it and sell it. Hooray for the Xbox One onesie. Or, I'm sorry, Xbox Onesie.
Yeah,
right?
Xbox Onesie.
Right. All right. Sorry.
Do you get it yet?
I don't care. How about that? God damn it. I'm going to take the first minute. I'm going to take the first minute. The last minute will go to Criken as our guest, as a courtesy and or curse. I'm not sure, but
just take all of my good answers. Okay.
Would you like? Okay, hold on. We could change. We could change the whole format right now.
The rules of the lightning round is you don't actually have to talk about the topic.
You can. You forfeit your time.
You can go ahead and go first.
No. You know what?
No. You have to go, Erskine.
All right. I'm gonna go. All right. We deserve this because we're all a bunch of assholes. We all game. I'm going to assume that this wasn't a developer decision. I assume that this was like a Microsoft deciding that, like, oh, fans think this would be cool, right? There's a lot of assuming going on here. I don't want anything to do with this. I think it's silly. I honestly, when I saw this article, I thought it was an April Fool's joke, and then I realized that it was fucking August, and I'm like, what is happening? Even PlayStation, who does like really weird shit sometimes, like, hasn't done something like this. There's pockets for controllers. There's a hoodie. You can get a black with white trim or a white with black trim. That's super exciting. No, I have pajamas. You know what it is? It's my boxer shorts and a fucking t-shirt. I don't need to swim, like sleep or swim for that matter, in something with an Xbox logo on it. Anybody that buys this, I hope it's comfortable. I hope it's awesome. I hope it feels like it enhances your Xbox One experience, no matter what game that you are playing. I feel bad for the gaming community because this thing exists. I'm done.
Jeez.
I didn't realize people were so negative about this thing.
I'll give you one lump of coal for angry.
Yeah.
Well done. It was
I gave you some Xanax.
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
60 seconds, please.
I only wear one type of onesies, and those are cute and often Pokemon themed with cute ears and animal tails. I'm not talking about furry suits, so don't get fucking weird on me. I'm just talking about like nice, plush, comfortable Pikachu onesies. That's what I like. This Xbox One looks dumb. Not going to wear it. Not going to spend money on it. Instead, I'm going to go out and get a Charmander one instead.
Does that upset you too, Joe?
No. I think I can appreciate. You know what? The guy's got taste. He's got his opinions, and I appreciate it. I'm gonna award you one GIF of you tapping a Pokemon Go player on the shoulder dressed as Pikachu, and while they're trying to catch a Pikachu, they turn around and freak out because you're standing right behind them.
Wow, that's a really complicated.
It's very specific.
Yeah,
it's a gift.
I feel like I've seen that. I feel like I've seen that GIF before, and I just want you to be the Pikachu in that GIF.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay.
Mr. Golish,
hey,
60 seconds.
How's it going?
It's great.
I just gotta say that this is probably the singular greatest thing that Microsoft has ever released. Like, it's it's fucking hilarious. Like, it's a joke. It's fucking great. It's like Xbox Onesie. Like, that's a fucking dad joke right there. And then I don't know, that gives it like fucking plus 10 points right there. But I just gotta say though that if anybody thinks that they're gonna be able to keep that white one clean for like any amount of time, like if you eat food in your house,
right, I can see
drink
the
anything,
Dorito dust. Like
it's like everything is going to stick to that. Like it's a fucking sexy looking shit. Like. Like, how could you not like touch yourself wearing that thing? Because it looks good. It looks good.
God.
I'm not even an Xbox fanboy.
Oh my God.
But
the zipper goes all the way down. It's
it's fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot wear that white one because it's going to get dirty. You are going to get it dirty on something. You're going to fucking brush up against something, and it's going to get dirty. So you have to order the black one, which nobody wants. So
it's too hot in the summertime.
So
if you run a black light either over one of those, it's just gonna not work out very well.
It looks great. You know why everybody's fucking excited about it? Because it looks fucking great. It's white. It's awesome.
I am going to award you the black one.
Oh, thank you. I'm not going to wear it. It's going to be too warm.
But an AC unit to keep you cool. How about that?
Thank you.
All right. Criken, you have the last minute for the show today. Tell us how you feel about the Xbox Onesie.
Well, I appreciate what you've all said. I think we're missing a crucial piece of evidence here, and that is the onesie's emblazoned with like emblems to reinforce what they are. So I think that's your gamer tag on the top left or the top right of it. So just in case like you get it mixed up with your friend's onesie when he comes over to have a sleepover with you, you know which one's which is great.
Because you're going to be taking it off with your
giant
friends.
Controller pouch. So if you're walking about, going to the kitchen, grabbing some food, and you don't want to leave your controller in case it gets lonely, you slip it in there. Man, that puppy's coming with you. So that's great. On the right, you have just a TV sign. It's unclear what that means. I don't know if you can watch your TV via that pouch, but it looks like he's putting a remote control in there. So you have to leave the control for your friend to change the channel. It's all in the control of your onesie, which is really brilliant. And I think there's even more emblems on the left and the right of them. I don't even know what those are. They don't even really reveal that. That stuff's like, top secret. So I'm excited to see where that's going. And I also want to mention that this was released in conjunction with the 500 gigabyte and 1 terabyte version of the Xbox. It is a brand, cross promotion. So
for the slim, right?
It's super slim. Super slim.
Okay.
I like it. They should call it not the one.
I'm not going to award you points. I'm just going to award you that you won this episode and or the lightning round. Your comments were astute, informed, and otherwise, I think very generous to both Xbox, but to our listeners as well for all of your for your commentary and your insight, and we appreciate it, man. That was.
Don't you have to disclose though that they paid you for that plug that you just did during our episode? And you probably need
I'm literally wearing a onesie right now.
We promised him we'd put it in the show notes, guys. Come on, all right.
I have the rare black and white one where the zipper splits it down the middle.
Oh,
it's very confusing.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well done, Criken. That was an excellent couple of minutes. I think we've done it, gentlemen. No, our pleasure. Trust me. Episode 109 is all done. Thank you, Criken. We're looking forward to more from the channel and all the design endeavors, games, and otherwise that you have in store for us in the future. Please come back and join us on a future episode when you're maybe in a position to announce where you can discuss more openly. Perhaps be transparent about other things that you may or may not be working on. If people want to come and check out your stream or your YouTube channel, where should they do it?
Sure. So my YouTube channel is Criken2. YouTube.com/Criken. You'll find me. Also Twitch. I'm twitch.tv/Criken. And Twitter, I'm at Crickmaster. And that's all the best ways to get a hold of me. So hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for having me on the show. This was great fun.
Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it.
There's a thing that's been really bothering me that I need like an answer to. What happened to Criken 1? Is this kind of like a Street Fighter 1 and 2 situation where the first one was just not up to snuff?
This was a guy made the channel Criken about 2 months before I did, and then quit YouTube, and henceforth I've been chasing his shadow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's disastrous. I really don't have a more exciting reveal than that. It was a shameful, just missed him on grabbing the name.
Well, there you have it. A nice little insight into the history of Criken right there.
I like that.
It was nice. Maybe I feel like we just did like behind the music for like 30 seconds. It was kind of fun. Well, we appreciate you being here, and listener, we appreciate you being here as well. So always feel like you have a place to chime in and let us know what you think. Hit us up at cheatcodespodcast.com. We're on Facebook and Twitter, obviously. That'll do it for us for now. But make sure to check out our Patreon page because we're doing that as well. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month. So if you're into the show, help us out. We've got behind the scenes episodes for your money, game nights on Steam for your money, and you name it. There's a bunch of other awesome reward programs and tiers that you can take advantage of based on your donation. And we appreciate everybody's support so far. It's been I don't know, more than we expected. At least at this point, it's been awesome. So I'm sure Criken can speak to that. Having an awesome community that does awesome things for you to keep you going. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's awesome.
See, I told you. Thanks to everybody who's jumped on board so far, and anybody who's checking it out, especially from the Criken end of things. Thanks for listening in, man. And Criken, keep pumping out awesome stuff. Keep pumping out great content. Thank you.
I'll do my best.
For like the 8th time. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're welcome.
I warned you, didn't I? That I was going to, yeah, thank you a bunch. But lollipop. Ba-dum, bum.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.